Okay, good afternoon, members of class. Here we come to the last module on the course Use of English. We are going to discuss the last module, which is module 7 on language and style. With me, your facilitator, as usual, Dr. BD Aminu. You are welcome to the class. Now, what is literature? When we say language and style, we are talking about the segment of literature, how language is used and the style it is used in literary work. So what is literature? Literature is a broad term that encompasses almost everything we read, see and hear. The term literature is derived from the Latin literature, meaning writings, and the French belles lettres, meaning fine letters. Initially, literature referred mainly to fictional and imaginative writings, and was divided into three genres or categories. These categories or genres are poetry, prose, and drama. It is the form of each category that distinguishes it from the others. For instance, all the first three genres could share the same theme or subject matter, such as corruption, love, education, etc. But each one looks different on the page. What this means is that a page of poetry is distinct from a page of play or drama, since poetry does not indicate speaker, and nor does it provide stage direction in parentheses the way the play text does. And prose is distinct because all the lines run to the edge of the page and do not stop arbitrarily the way that the lines in a poem, for instance, do. Nowadays, however, the term literature has been expanded to encompass even writings that are factual or truth-telling. There is now a fourth genre of category of literature called life writing. This refers to non-fictional writings such as autobiography, biography, diary, journal, memoir, travelogue, letters, or essays. Now, what is fiction? The term fiction denotes any literary narrative, whether in prose or verse, which is invented instead of being an account of events that actually happened. Sometimes fiction is used as a synonym for the novel. Note, however, that fiction is not the same as a lie or falsehood or untruth. This is because in fiction there is no attempt by the author to deceive the reader or audience, as is the case with the lie or falsehood. Fiction is simply a product of the imagination. Writing or producing a work of fiction is a creative enterprise whereby the author invents a story world or depicts a series of events that never happened, but not with the intention to deceive. Now, the genres of literature, as we said earlier, are poetry, prose, and play, even though the fourth now, which is introduced, is called life writing. Let us see each one and see a bit about it. Poetry. What is poetry? Poetry is often considered the oldest form of literature. This is because it has existed since before writing was invented, when our ancestors told old oral stories in some sort of poetic form to make them easier to remember and recite. Today, poetry is usually written down, but is still sometimes performed. A text is said to be a poem when it has meter or rhythm, and when it focuses on the way the syllables, words, and phrases sound when put together. Poems are often made up of fragments and phrases rather than complete, grammatically correct sentences. Also, poetry is nearly always written in stanzas and lines, creating a unique look on the page. However, not all poems have a strict line arrangement or regular rhyme pattern. Such poems are called free form or free verse, because they do not have line arrangement, strictness in line arrangement, so they are free verse or free form. Some features of poetry. Let us see some features of poetry. One of the features of poetry is rhyme. What is a rhyme? A rhyme is achieved when two or more words sound similar. For example, fly, high, buy, or see. Fly, high, buy, or see, tree, agree, or fist, insist, assist, etc. In this case, the three words rhyme. In a poem, the rhyme is usually achieved when the last words of two or more lines have the same sound. For example, do you see the little fly up the wall so high? Fly high in the two sentences or the two lines. You can see here that fly rhymes with high. Rhyme is what gives poetry its musicality. Now the second feature of poetry is verse. A verse refers to the lines of a poem. Most of the time, a verse is not a full or complete sentence. It is just a line of poetry. Consider this excerpt from Ni Oshindere's poem, Poetry Is. That's the title of the poem. Poetry is. Poetry is man meaning to man. From this example, you can see that a verse could even be just one word, because in this case, the first, second, and third and the last line consists of only one word, except the fourth line where it has two words. Now the next feature of a poetry is stanza. This word is derived from the Italian for stopping place. A stanza is a grouping of the verse lines in a poem. Stanzas are often separated by a space in the printed text. The stanza is the equivalent of the paragraph in prose writing. In other words, a passage or story or essay is made up of paragraphs, while a poem is made up of stanzas. So a paragraph is made up of sentences, while a stanza is made up of lines or verses. The excerpt given above from Oshindere's poem is a stanza. Now let's move to the prose. We have finished discussing the features of poetry. Now we look at prose. What is a prose? Prose can be defined as any kind of written text that isn't poetry. So any text that is not poetry, then it's a prose. The most typical varieties of prose are novels and short stories, while other types include letters, diaries, journals, and non-fiction. All these are also considered as prose. Prose is written in complete sentences and is organized in paragraphs. So instead of focusing on sound, which is what poetry does, prose tends to focus on plots and characters. What are some of the features of prose? 1. Plot. This means the arrangement of the events of a story. The most common type of plot is the linear plot, which has this structure. Linear plot has a structure like beginning, middle, end, or departure, adventure, return. However, not all plots are linear or chronological. The story above has a linear plot since the events of the story are narrated sequentially. Now, I guess there is no story given above. Maybe when we have a story, you find out that it has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, or it has a departure, it has an adventure, and then it has a return. Now, character or characterizations. Characters or characterization is another feature of prose. Characters are the people, animals, or things whose actions drive the plot or story. This means that characters can be human or non-human, such as animals, trees, or even things. Characters can be either round or flat, or they could be major or minor. Major characters are characters that play significant or important roles in the story, Without them, there would be no story. Minor characters are not as important as major characters, and therefore, even without them, the story could still remain. Most major characters are round. Round characters show change, development, or growth. If you are able to understand, for you to get whether major character is important or not, you find out that a major character is round. It's round in the prose, and therefore they show change, development, or growth. Flat characters, on the other hand, are static. They are static. They are not round. Now the next feature of a prose is setting. What is setting? Setting refers to the place or places where the story takes place. So setting can be a room, it can be a house, it can be a country, it can be a forest, or even another planet. Settings can be actual places that we know, or they could be places that are imagined by the author or writer of the story. Now the next is drama. Let us see what a drama is. Drama is also known as play. So play or drama. What is play or what is drama? Drama is any text meant to be performed rather than read. Yes, dramas are usually called plays. The greater part of a drama is dialogue with periodic stage directions. Dramas are meant to be acted out in front of an audience. The writer of a drama is called a playwright. What are some of the features of drama? 1. Dialogue. This refers to the talk or conversation between two or more actors or characters. That is dialogue. 2. Monologue. Monologue is used to refer to a situation where a character speaks alone to no one in particular, or a character speaks to himself. That is what we call interior monologue. Number 3. Stage direction. This refers to the instructions given by the playwright on how the stage is to be arranged, or how certain actions are to be done. Stage direction refers to the instructions given by the playwright on how the stage is to be arranged or how certain actions are to be done. It is usually written in italics. Now we have different types of drama, but here are the types. The major types of drama are tragedy. What is tragedy? This is a type of drama or play that has a sad ending. Now we have another type of drama, major type, which is comedy. A comedy is a type of drama that has a happy ending and often makes the audience laugh. Then we have tragicomedy, a mixture of two. This type of drama contains features of both tragedy and comedy. Now non-fiction. Let us talk about non-fiction. Remember we say the fourth genre of literature is introduced contemporarily as life writing. So non-fiction is also called life writing. Life writing is non-fiction because it generally refers to texts that tell the stories of real people's lives. The most common types of non-fiction are autobiography. What is autobiography? This is the story of a person's life told by himself or herself. That is autobiography. It could be biography. So non-fiction could be biography. This is the story of a person's life told by someone else. Non-fiction could be diary or journal. This is a record of the day-to-day events or happenings of a person's life which are recorded by that person as they happen. Non-fiction could also be travelogue. What is travelogue? This is an account of a journey or travel recorded by the traveler, showcasing the strange people, places, things, and customs that are encountered in the course of the journey. Other types of literature include oral literature such as folklore, fables, legends, myth, and folk tales, and graphic novels and comic books. So these are to do with literature parts. So language and style, the way in which language is used in literary form. Now, conclusion. In a nutshell, literature is divided into three major genres, namely poetry, prose, and play, which is otherwise called drama. Prose works can be further divided into fiction and non-fiction, and each of these has its own features and characteristics. The beauty of literature is that it is all around us. Whenever we tell stories or recount our experiences, we are engaging in literature. It is in literature that human beings record and keep the best that has been known and thought in the world. Literature preserves our thoughts. Literature preserves our thoughts, experiences, emotions, and knowledge. It is through the constant engagement with literature that we improve our vocabulary, gain general knowledge, and sharpen our mental faculties. We cannot get by, it seems, without literature in our lives. Literature is part of our life. This is what we have to really take, and believe that literature is part of our life. Do you agree? Thank you for listening. Now we have some review questions for you to remember, what has been discussed, so that you understand more and more of the lecture slides that we have just presented and voiced for you. 1. What is the meaning of the term literature? 2. How many genres of literature are there? 3. What are the distinguishing features of each genre of literature? 4. What is the major difference between fiction and non-fictions? Thank you. Now you can see there are references, because in this case you can read further. You can consult any of these references if you want to read more about literature and its gists.